That burnt down.
Oh my God.
It caused something like £10 million worth of damage. And the whole of the East End was on fire. And this poor lad was just standing there, and he was just petrified. And
oh God. It just shows you, man, when the eye comes off the ball for just a minute sometimes.
Yeah. It's these life-changing moments that you just cannot predict. So, but no, things have been busy. I've been doing interviews all over the place. It's been absolutely non-stop with interviews because I had a conversation with my old colleague Maggie Oliver the other day. She contacted me, and we were just both discussing, because we both spoke out at the same time on exactly the same thing, really. Although the ethnicity was slightly different, but it was the same. And she was bullied the same way as me. And I just said to her, Maggie, what we said 10 years ago, it's all come true, isn't it? She went, yeah, it has. You know, despite how they've tried to suppress us, shut us up, whatever they've tried to do, it's all come true. The whole thing has come true. So it's and I got infiltrated. Here's a story for you, and I'm going to say this because it needs to be said. I got infiltrated by someone who, ex-police officer, says, I want to help and really want to get involved with what you're doing. Gives me all his qualifications. He's the best thing since sliced bread, this guy. I stood up against corruption like you. You know, I really want you on board. Me and a group are taking on the government for corruption, everything else. Certain things didn't really speak true, but there was no doubting he was a police officer, no doubt at all. But he sort of promoted and then demoted himself in the conversation. So one minute he was a superintendent, next minute he was an inspector, then a sergeant. But he mentioned a couple of places he worked, and I knew a couple of guys that worked in these places.
Okay.
So, and he wanted to get me to help with what he's doing, help me with what I was doing, but also help some of the stuff that a lot of good people are trying to do to try and get, I'm not going to name any names, are trying to get this inquiry, this independent inquiry underway. Let me leave it at that. He's sort of trying to sort of offer these services there as this bastion of absolute decency and anti-corruption. Anyway, as soon as the conversation, something didn't seem right. So I contacted a friend of mine and I said, look, can I run a name past you? The moment I said it, my mate said, see you next Tuesday, get rid of him, have nothing to do with him whatsoever. Google his name now. And I said, seriously, he said, John, just Google his name. Googled it. He's a registered sex offender. The bloke was a paedophile. He was caught downloading child pornography. There was, an absolute dog. And that I got incensed with anger. And I really mean it. I was fuming, and I had to contact a couple of people that came to help and say, well, have you any idea who this guy is? And they had no idea. Just because he was a copper, they thought he was great. I said, he went to prison for child P. Wow. He's a paedophile. So, you know, it just goes to show you never can tell. You must always keep your eye on the ball, you know. But trust that copper's nose as well at the same time, you know. Yeah. Sometimes if it looks like a dog and it barks like a dog, there's a good chance, you know. So, but, you know, that's that. It's a lot of interest on Mr. Brand, you know, huge amount of interest on him.
Well, obviously we sort of deep dived and had a little take on Russell Brand, and time's ticking on. I do believe he's still in America right now. And, you know, I got ChatGPT to troll the internet and grab every single public accusation that's been thrown against him over the years and put together a timeline of events, shall we say. Because for me, John, I got a bit shocked when I realized that the police were not investigating Brand until that documentary came out. Okay. Which seems, is that not backwards?
It may be, but sometimes there's a catalyst. That's not to say that he hasn't been reported.
Oh no, there's definitely reports.
You know, he may well have been reported many, many times in the past. The thing is with people like him, that the allegations on him will go to what they call the celebrity squad. There's a special unit that will deal with celebrities such as him.
Yeah.
And then whether that goes into this sort of big pot that just melts away and nothing comes of it, I don't know. I've never been on one of them units, but my old boss did run it, and used to say, whether it's a cover up, I don't know. On these things, maybe not.
Yeah.
But people like him, it's the influence they have. That's what the government's frightened of. But I bet you, like Savile, there's a huge history of this guy actually coming to notice and allegations being made. And I think there's been some made abroad as well, isn't there? Against
him? There's some here, some abroad, some during filming, some during broadcast.
I think there was some in Italy and.
It's just it doesn't paint a good picture. So this is what ChatGPT.
I was told by a copper that there was a lot of allegations made in Brazil against Freddie Mercury.
Okay.
But for young boys, said that the Brazilian police were looking into him. So all is not. It's all. But what gets me, it's always this genre of people. It's always the celebrities, the singers, everything else. It's always them.
John, I saved this image because I just thought this one would rub you up the wrong way. So I thought just throw this one up for you, mate.
Do you know who does he think he is? I mean, it's the same as Andrew Tate does the same. Andrew Tate. They've all got to have this grandstanding like Jesus, haven't they? I mean, I think David Icke does one where he sort of comes in with his arms out. And look at this guy. Who does he think he? I mean, his t-shirt. What's he got on his t-shirt? It looks like a 5-pointed star or something.
Oh, it's too good. Well, I've got another one for you. Wait. I've got another one for you. And this is the last one. This one.
But that's what they call a Sacred Heart. That one. It's not really a Christian picture. That's a.
There we go. But
I mean, it's just a mockery. He'll burn in hell, this guy, for what he's doing.
Okay, well, look, here's what ChatGPT has to say, right? Timeline of allegations. I just want to remind everybody at this stage, it is a multitude of allegations plus a multitude of charges. I'm going to get the Russell Brand is innocent until proven guilty banner up. So it says 2006 allegations of a 16-year-old schoolgirl claims Brand SA'd her during a 3-month relationship.
Right, can we break this down? I like this. So a 16-year-old. I want people to really take that on board. A 16-year-old. Now, again, it'll come down to consent. But why is it always the victim that has to say no? Do you know what I mean? She's 16. Okay, that's legal. What is a guy of that age doing with a 16-year-old girl? Let's say, and if what she's saying is true, it's down to him to say no, not her, him. I mean, that in itself, that's actually really angered me. The fact that's come up, and that's all that's done is fueled my suspicion anyway.
Here, it's interesting because we've got this report on ChatGPT, but in the documentary, one of the victims that spoke out, John, was this 16-year-old girl, and she has been trying to campaign for, or trying to press for laws, because obviously, yes, 16 is legal age, right? And it's not weird when it's 16 and a 17-year-old or an 18-year-old or whatever. There's that kind of
right. Well, the law,
comfort, right?
The law used to say, right, there was an offence called USI, unlawful sexual intercourse, and it would allow a man under the age of 24 to have sex with a girl over the age of 14, providing there was no bizarre circumstances, in amongst it, and he'd never been accused of it before. It allowed for that. I thought she was 16. It allowed for the law. What I'm saying with this, with USI, the law was reasonable, and we can sort of look at that and say, yeah, actually, I can get that. I'm not saying it's right or anything like that, but I can get it. Now, I watched one of these PDF hunters went out there and they targeted an 18-year-old boy for trying to groom a 14-year-old girl, and they destroyed this young lad. And it was wrong what they were doing, right? It was wrong. He was 18, she was 14. The old USI would have allowed for it, right? He would have got a warning. Social services would have got brought in, and it would have all been dealt with as an education. Don't do it. She's too young, right?
Would that
But
not
him, this guy is in his 50s, and back then in 2006, maybe his late 40s. It's out of order. And anyone out there, and I want to call out here to female victim and survivors, right, of underage sex. What are your opinions on this when you've heard this with 16-year-old girl? And I'd also want to call out to decent, reasonable, grown men with 15 and 16-year-old girls who still think that this guy maybe is innocent and they believe in what he's saying, right? What are your opinions on this? Because me, I've not got girls, but I've got boys, right? I am very angry now hearing that, really angry at hearing that. And I think the law's been very reasonable up till this date. Bear in mind, it was a 16-year-old. But please go ahead. I've just had to.
Yeah, no, that's all right. Well, it's interesting that you say that because there's been a lot of people wanting to change the laws in the UK so that if you're a 16-year-old and I don't know, let's say for argument's sake, up to the age of like 20, 23, 24, something like that, anything over an age where it could be considered a massive grooming gap, where there's a power dynamic, they want to see a law changed. I mean, how would you even go around?
Yeah, but we had that. Like I said, the USI allowed for that. There's loads of coats in there, bro. Yeah, all right, no worries.
The USI, is the USI not something that could be easily weaponized, though, by a grooming gang, for example, by using 17, 18-year-olds to be the communication between a 14-year-old?
Yeah, but that's exactly what they do. They call it the Romeo effect. That's okay. What they do. And they've always done that. You can't get around that. Anyone who's deceptive will use, the veil of innocence. Like I said earlier on, look at this ex-policeman showing himself off as some sort of decent human being. Well, actually, he's a dangerous individual, and the public need to be warned about this guy, but that's how a confidence trick, i.e., a con man, works. They trick your confidence. They bring you into this sense of security, and then they diddle you and do you over. So we won't be able to get away from that. But this is a grown man with all the women who self-proclaimed sex. I mean, I don't know how many. He's obviously no good at it if he has to have so many of them, because he's not perfected it and not got one to fine tune his skill on. He's it always baffles me when you get these people like Mick Jagger, like him, that self-proclaimed, these Lotharios, Romeos, and that go into their sexual partners in the thousands. Well, they're obviously no good at it. There's something very, very wrong if that has to occur. I don't know. I mean, I like someone else's opinion on that. It seems odd.
You said, he's a grown man. He's not just that. He's a grown man who's a comedian, who's a television star, who's on the radio. There's a lot of dynamics here that lead to a power dynamic and certainly a persuasive individual.
Well, he's in a position of authority, really. And so if he was a care worker, a school teacher, a police officer, it'd be done now. It'd be in a world of trouble. I mean, the parameters around us police officers, what we could and couldn't stick it in, were immense. I mean, there was always the ones that always played victim were victims of crime. There would be guys that would deal with like the victims of crime, and then that was their way in to sort of have it off with them and stuff like that. So that went on. If you were caught, you was in a world of trouble. And on Vice, because we dealt with prostitutes, whether on the street or in the brothel, a few of them did cross that Rubicon. And but we were warned, any inclination that you're having anything sexual to do with a prostitute or whatever, you're out, you're gone. There's no appeal. You're gone, and you have to sign a contract to that you ain't going to appeal. You're not going to fight it. You're just going to accept you're gone, and that's how it was.
Yeah. Well, listen, there's been two occasions, one during an interview and then another in the papers, and I just wanted to get your two takes on the mindset of Russell Brand here. So the first one was when Russell Brand gave one of his partners an STD, and she informed him of it, and then he went to his radio station, and live on the radio show he was laughing about it and making jokes with it with his co-host. Wait, there's one more. And then the other one was a production manager who's seen Russell Brand in, let's just say, for example, the green room or the after party or whatever. And he was sat there, and other members of the production team came up and were like, right, Russell, let's see the photos. And he's sitting there with about 12 members of the team flicking through all of the inappropriate images that he'd been sent or taken of other women, right? And then laughing about it and joking about it. As an ex-police officer, when you see cases like this where there's this open degradation or this lack of respect or care, does that give you any more insight into him as a potential alleged predator?
He needs his head punching. That's what he needs.
Right.
He needs a dad to go around and punch his head in. I mean, imagine laughing on, and that was your daughter.
Yep.
You know, your naive idiot daughter who's idolised this moron. And I think anyone who goes near this guy is going to catch something, aren't they? You're going to catch something. You know, it's just. Yeah. I mean, if you lay with dogs, you're going to get fleas, aren't you? It's as simple as that. You know, and now, you know, and now I'd like to know what his wife thinks about this. And at some point, his children are going to be grown up and they're going to watch this. What are they going to think? You know, the guy's got no shame at all, none whatsoever. There's no repentance on this man, no repentance whatsoever. I mean, if he's really a man of God and gone to Jesus Christ, our Saviour, then what he should be doing, these poor victims, and there should be some compensation. He should be getting in touch with them and saying, look, for what it's worth, I know money ain't going to do it, but have something. I'm sorry, I'm deeply sorry. I don't know whether he's done that or not, but I doubt it. They're probably trying it now because, you know, the wheels come off the cart. And he's in a world of trouble, so there may well be some sort of financial remuneration being bandied about. But do you know what? I think it's too late. I'm glad that this guy's caught out. I'm glad. I never liked him. You're going to get a very biased opinion on me. I never liked this guy. He's sinister. He's creepy. Some guys, I get why women fancy them. I get it. I understand it. Right? But this guy, he's creepy. What do women... I don't know what it is, whether it's a fame thing or whatever it might be. The fact that he makes laugh. He is an intelligent guy. But you know what? So what? Hitler was a clever guy. You know? What difference is that?
Listen, I'm not being crazy, but I would imagine that Hitler had fangirls too. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, let's be honest. It's you look at some of the worst people who are serial unalivers, you know, who've done crazy things, but have recently been married in prison or have met the love of their life through written correspondence. It's an interesting world.
Well, what'll be interesting is seeing how many people still think, you know, believe his innocence. What's the demographic? Are they women? Are they women in their 40s? Are they women in their young teens? What you know? I reckon it probably is a certain demographic. I'll probably say it's sort of more middle-aged women that are siding with this guy. I can't see how any man could side with him.
I think what you have a whole generation now, though, John, that would never have known Russell Brand the comedy, never known Russell Brand on the telly, and only know Russell Brand as the free-thinking, whistle-blowing style, you know, messiah, if you will. So do you think that we're going to see a younger demographic who are backing Russell Brand because they haven't lived through that era of him?
Well, you know, the 20-somethings do know him. You know, my boys and his friends do know who this guy is because he's so out there. But again, the production companies, you know, why is there no sanctions? Look, when post Wayne Couzens thing in the police, they went out after coppers that had WhatsApp groups, and they had these WhatsApp chats, and they were sending these so-called inappropriate messages, which everyone's done and all that, but they were getting sacked for it and everything else. Why don't they go after this side? If a load of coppers were passing around pictures of rape victims and laughing at it, they'd all be sacked. So why can't they do it to the BBC Channel 4 production companies? Why can't they sack Jonathan Ross as well, you know, for what went on with this guy and the Andrew Sachs granddaughter sort of scenario? You know, why can't they start having sanctions? But they don't. There are no sanctions. It seems to be they're rewarding